It's easy to overlook all of the good in a motorcycle when you're faced with a bunch of small problems. In my last video, I talked about some of those problems and then sent the bike off to the shop. Now that it's back, I'll tell you how those problems were or weren't resolved, and I'll tell you how I feel about the Moto Guzzi V7 Sport after 3,000 miles of ownership. So just to recap, I took the Moto Guzzi V7 Sport into the shop the other day because of a couple of problems. The heated grips stopped working, the traction control light stayed on blinking, and I felt that it was using an excessive amount of oil, or something else was going on with the oil. The bike spent 2.5 days in the shop, and the results are this. 1. The traction control light blinking was potentially an issue with an overinflated front tire. I'm told my tire in the front was inflated to 39 psi when it should have been inflated to 36. Did I overinflate my own tire with a digital gauge and then checking it afterwards with this tire gauge? I don't know that that's a thing, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt because after the tire pressure was apparently corrected, the traction control light's no longer blinking. Now, if 3 extra pounds of air in your tire can disable your traction control, then I think maybe that's something that Moto Guzzi needs to look into, but we're gonna give that a pass. The second issue was the heated grips not working. Now, of course, they worked just fine as soon as I crossed onto the property line of the dealership. So nothing was done to fix them, they just worked. I was told that perhaps it was because of low current. So I said, well, Ben, you checked it, right? You checked everything. You checked the alternator, you checked the regulator, rectifier, all that stuff. And I was told that they checked the voltage, and the voltage was fine. So we'll see what happens with that. Right now, they're working. Well, they're not working right now because I'm not using them, but they are working again. The third issue was the overconsumption of oil, or the lack of a proper fill of the oil, or whatever is going on with the oil. Here's what they did. They drained it and they refilled it. Now, my first thought when I was standing at the dealership was, you better check the oil, which I did. And it was so overfilled that I couldn't see the top line of the oil in the sight glass. I asked about this and was told this is what Piaggio told them to do. Basically, the plan is fill it, I'm going to run it for 600 miles, I'm going to bring it back, they're going to drain it again and measure it and see what the oil consumption actually is. If there's an issue, they'll address it. The bummer here is that Piaggio told my dealership that anything up to 0.2 liters per 600 miles of oil consumption is just fine. That seems excessive to me, but what do I know? I'm not a master mechanic. So we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, I got the bike back, and since I have to burn off 600 miles before I can have the oil changed, I went yesterday and did 330 miles almost non-stop. I stopped only to get gas and take a couple of pictures. I must have been in the saddle for, 8-9 hours total? Something like that. I went into the high desert of Oregon, and it was just an absolutely magical ride. The Moto Guzzi V7 Sport performed flawlessly, and it was one of the best days of riding I've had in a very, very long time. All this to say, this motorcycle is absolutely fantastic, regardless of whether or not it has a few little problems here and there. I didn't mean to give the impression that I was completely giving up on this bike, because I am certainly not. Was I losing a little faith? Sure. Do I still have a lot of questions? Abso-fucking-lutely. But we'll see how it all shakes out. In the meantime, I want to tell you what it's been like outside of those couple of little problems to own this bike and ride it for 3,364 miles. First and foremost, we've got to talk about the engine. You can't talk about a Moto Guzzi without talking about the engine. The engine on this bike is so completely satisfying that it's hard to describe. The way it feels, the way it sounds, the way it performs, it's probably my favorite engine of all time. I really, really adore this engine. I love the way that it looks. I love the heads jutting out the sides and all that, and the transverse V-twin or whatever people have decided to call it. I just love it. It's got so much character and soul, sensory richness, as I have put it in the past, that it's hard to put it down. It's hard to like get off the bike and walk away from it and not just want to ride it and ride it and ride it. It also performs remarkably well. You'd be surprised, I think. I'm gonna stop and do a 0 to 60 because I want you to see how this thing pulls. I'm gonna come to a full stop. This is probably not the best road to do this on, but I want you to see how this pulls. Now I am in not Peogia, not Strada, but I am in sport mode. Just so that we're all on the same page here. You ready? Watch this. Seriously. That's no slouch. I love it. The performance of this bike, engine-wise, is really surprising. It's so good. The handling is just as good. I love whipping this bike through the twisties. Look at this, is probably some of the roughest road that I'm going to encounter today. It's so nasty, and it takes it. I mean, it's not lovely, but it's totally acceptable. It probably looks like hell on camera, but no worse for wear. In over 3,000 miles, I've not gotten sick of how this bike looks. It's still the kind of bike that when I park it outside of a supermarket or whatever, I always look back at it and smile. I think the Moto Guzzi V7 across the line, the older ones, the brand new ones like this, I think they're some of the coolest looking motorcycles ever made. Some people describe them as bland. Some people describe them as funny looking. I just think that they're a work of art. Being able to ride a work of art down the road and have it actually perform and handle exceptionally, that's something you don't get in a lot of motorcycles. Outside of the problems, oh God, did you see that? That was a giant hawk that I almost hit. I almost hit a hawk. Outside of the ongoing couple of little problems, I forgot to mention, of course, that my ride modes are still in Italian. And every time I use my heated grips, they revert to Italian, even if I set them to English. But as I mentioned in the last video, Piaggio's apparently working on that. It doesn't bother me. None of this stuff necessarily bothers me. And I think this is the point I failed to make in the last video. The point is not that my riding modes are in Italian, or that my traction control light was blinking, or that my heated grips went out. I can live with all of those things. I just want to know why it happened and know that it can and was fixed, right? I don't want little things to start adding up. And the major thing is, I always am concerned when something electrical goes wrong, especially when it's something to do with like the ECU or whatever, that it's just indicative of a bigger problem. That's the big deal for me. I don't care so much about the little things. What I care about is that they're indicating that they're part of a bigger problem that might not be obvious. The traction control light coming on and blinking. If it was because the front tire was overinflated, which I have a hard time believing because I was the one who inflated it, then fine. If it wasn't and it just came on randomly, I want to know why, right? I want to know if it's going to happen again, and if it does happen again, is it something I can fix? Is there something I can reset? Or is it something that Piaggio and Moto Guzzi needs to address? That's all I'm saying. I'm not pissed that things happen. I just want them resolved. I just want to know what's going on. I just want to know that they're not part of a much larger issue. No biggie. Anyway, back to the bike. I know this video is all over the place, but this is what happens when I get out on the V7 Sport. I just kind of lose touch with reality. I love this bike so much. Anyway, I think I was trying to say, aside from the few problems that I've already reported on, This bike has been an absolute dream to own. Yeah, it's got its little quirks, and I'll tell you about that in the next section. But, you know, those little quirks add up to personality, I guess. Some people say quirks are flaws. I get that. But, you know, none of this stuff was a surprise when I bought the bike. Especially having owned a Moto Guzzi previously. I know that Moto Guzzis are a little different. Just like if you've ever owned a Saab. Ladybug and I used to own a Saab 9.3. What an amazing, amazing vehicle that was. Probably my favorite car of all time that I've ever owned. But boy, did it have its own little quirks, including the fact that the ignition was in the center console, so when you went to put the key in, you had to put it in between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. It was really strange. At least it was for the time. And it was little things like that that I absolutely loved about that car. And that's why I love this bike. Nothing about it is really normal. Some people say that the Moto Guzzi V7 is like the Italian Harley Davidson, or I've heard it described as the thinking man's Harley. I don't know. To me, it's the motorcycle my dad would own if my dad were still around. My dad loved quirky cars, like he was really into Volkswagens. We had Volkswagen Bugs and Karmann Ghias when I was little, and buses, Volkswagen buses. These quirk machines. And that's exactly what the Moto Guzzi V7 Sport is. It's a little quirk machine. I absolutely love it. So speaking of those quirks, I'm going to find a place to pull over and tell you a little bit about some of the quirkiness that comes along with Moto Guzzi V7 Sport ownership. So here's one quirk that I find hilarious. If I want to put on my heated grips, I have to use the mode button over here to scroll through the menu on the display. However, to get to the heated grips menu, you have to click once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times. And then when you get here, then you have to hold it down. And then if you want to change the level, you have to hold it down again. For like a good 3 seconds. Now, I don't know. That's something, right? They couldn't have made it the first menu item or something, or like on the Triumphs, there's an actual button over here on the grip that you press to turn the heated grips on so you don't have to go through the menu system 8 friggin' times. I find that hilarious. I don't know why. Well, it's also irritating as balls, but here's another little quirk. When you go to start this bike, I mean, it rumbles, it wobbles, it does all kinds of stuff. But check out the tail. And God forbid you want to get it into neutral. Can you see how much it wiggles? You should see it when it's cold. It's like... It's hilarious, I love it. I mean, the handlebars do the same thing. I don't know if you can see that in the video. It's charming. The display in general gets a lot of, I don't know, opinion thrown at it. The whole Baby Yoda thing. I've decided I love it. It's probably not for most people, but I don't know. For me, it works on this bike. Would I like to have the twin analog clocks? Probably. But this has its own charm. It's quirky. I love it. Another fun little quirk is every once in a while when I start this bike, the blinker lights stay on and I have to cancel them out. It hasn't done it in a little while. I wish it would do it now because it's hilarious. Yeah, I don't know. Another little quirk of the Moto Guzzi. It does something one day and it doesn't do it the next day. What are you gonna do? So what are my final thoughts on the Moto Guzzi V7 Sport after some of the little problems that I've had and after owning it for 3,000 miles? Am I keeping it? Is it still in the running for forever bike status? Or am I going to ditch it and find something else before summer, like a lot of folks have said in the comments? I see you. The answer is actually pretty simple. There's no way I'm giving up this bike. The engine would have to fall out of the chassis and the handlebars would have to shoot up and hit me in the forehead before I would consider trading this bike for something else. This bike meets every one of my quirky, stupid little needs. It's got soul, character, that mechanical expressiveness, that sensory richness that I crave in a motorcycle. It's got amazing performance. It's got great handling. It looks like $1 million. I just can't even imagine a motorcycle looking cooler than the Moto Guzzi V7 Sport. I probably could, but I mean, it's right up there with one of my favorite bikes as far as looks go. It's got a huge fuel tank, like, 5.4, 5.5 gallons. So it means I can go and go and go. Maintenance on it is pretty standard and easy. 6,000 mile oil changes, 6,000 mile valve adjustments. But the valve adjustments are sort of something you could do at home if you really wanted to. What it means is, those 6,000 mile services, even though you have to have the valves done every time, it's not all that expensive because it really doesn't take a whole lot. You're not talking shims or anything like that. It's just adjusting the valves with little bolt type things. I'll make a video about it someday, like when I do the valve adjustment myself for the first time. Because one thing I'm learning in life is if you want something done right, you do it yourself. And so I've dedicated myself to learning how to do as much of the maintenance on my bikes as possible without ever having to take them to a shop. I learned my lesson. You told me so. I heard it. The Moto Guzzi V7 Sport is a fantastic motorcycle, and if my last video left a bad taste in your mouth as far as Moto Guzzi ownership, I'm sorry about that because that wasn't my intention. My only intention was to tell you some of the frustrations I was going through at the time. In the end, I am certain all of those things are going to get worked out one way or another, and this bike is going to remain just this fantastic machine that I know and love it to be. If you're thinking about getting a Moto Guzzi V7 or any of the Moto Guzzis, just know that they do have a reputation for reliability, even though you might not read that on the forums. People on the forums tend to only report the bad stuff. When something's going good, they don't jump on and say, hey, this is going good. So, and maybe I'm guilty of that sometimes too, but know that it's a reliable bike, it's a beautiful bike, it's just so much fun and so satisfying to ride. Like any motorcycle, it's gonna have its problems. But if you are considering a Moto Guzzi, the only thing I can tell you is either be really good with mechanical stuff, like know how to do your own service, or make sure you have a dealership you can trust nearby to take the bike to when something goes wrong. If you cover those bases, you're gonna love this thing. I know I do. It's a day. I'm not gonna say it's beautiful, but it's a day. I've got my heated gear on because I'm frozen solid, and I'm gonna do another lap on this island because this bike is so hard to put away. It really is. Check out this playlist filled with all of my Moto Guzzi videos. Catch you on the next one.